Hi, people. Moino with Mercury again, obviously, as always, and as usual. Yeah, as the header of this video says, this is going to be a brief video on um, how to spot a gaslighter and or a manipulator. I'm going to give a simple example. Okay, if you, for example, have um, just an example, a woman that's a gold digger, and she has her eye on you as a man, not for any particular reason. She, generally speaking, just thinks that you're weak or vulnerable and blah blah blah. Then what she will do essentially, if you, for example, have an interest in this woman, let's just say she's attractive, you're the one that approached her, and you essentially interact with her, etc. It's obvious based on your mentality what your intentions are. She's going to lead you on thinking that you can actually get some action, obviously sexually meant or otherwise, regardless of what you want. She's going to actually think that there's a chance that you might get what you want, and she's going to lead you on in the process and essentially try to bleed you dry of anything that she can bleed you dry from. But generally speaking, it will obviously be resources, since she's a gold digger, financial resources. And for example, when she sees that it's not worth the trouble anymore or anything like that, she's going to break off contact with you, which can happen in a myriad of ways, like ghost you. Generally speaking, it will be ghosting, or if you bother her, it will be essentially just snapping at you in a matter of speaking and telling you, like briefly yelling at you, go away, something like that. And let's just say that she managed to get a new pair of shoes out of you. You can see where I'm going with this. Um, if she does that with 7 guys like you, then she'll already have a wardrobe, or at least part of a wardrobe. These kind of people are actually quite common, believe it or not, unfortunately, in a matter of speaking. So you need to be wary of this. Of course, it goes both ways. I simply gave an example, but obviously it applies to men as well as women. You need to be aware of gaslighting and manipulation. When someone manipulates you, that means that someone behaves in a certain way as a means of getting something from you, by definition. When someone gaslights you, it means the same thing or very similar to manipulation, or it is very similar to manipulation. But with gaslighting, the person will deliberately, essentially, will manipulate you in a specific way. Generally speaking, gaslighting takes place purely verbally, or better said, psychologically, through verbal interactions. They'll either, generally speaking, blame you for something that's not your fault. They will, their entire, with gaslighting, the goal or the objective is to psychologically string you in a metaphorical cobweb of lies and misdirection and misleadingness, to the point where you essentially, where you be, for whatever reason, it can be ignorance, it can be being under the so-called spell, only metaphorically meant within a mundane context, or not being able to, being disoriented mentally. They you won't be, you'll just, because of any of those reasons, you will go along with everything and anything, blindly go along with anything. For example, a woman or a girl can easily gaslight or manipulate a guy that has the hots for her, that has a crush on her, he has strong feelings for her. That makes him vulnerable, believe it or not. It doesn't always happen to only weak people or people that are vulnerable. It happens to people that, due to some exceptional factor, are vulnerable. Um, Although it's rare, obviously, very, very rare. Obviously, I'm not referring to myself. This is just pure. This is purely meant within a mundane context. Are you kidding me? Yeah, no way, Jose, with me. Um, and understand that this is quite common, because people only think of gaslighting and manipulation in an interaction between two people that, generally speaking, know each other well enough to be able to get to that point where the gaslighting or manipulation takes place. But guess what? Throughout society, you have several gaslighters and manipulators. Companies also gaslight and manipulate people. Companies do stuff like that by any means necessary. For example, a tourist website, or a tourist, any company, or a lot of companies within the tourist industry. What they do, for example, as well as commercial companies within daily life, They, through advertising, let's just say advertising alone, they advertise, they create a commercial, or they have a commercial recorded. The entire premise of that commercial, in case you guys weren't aware of it, but most people already know what I'm talking about, if not, pay close attention, is to make their product or service whatever they want, okay, whatever they want you to buy from them or make use of. They literally try to pass it off like at least 2 times better than it actually is. So let's just say that you have a tourist company that offers tours, obviously, regardless of country. They have every kind of tours, outdoor adventures, everything. They, through, when you look at a pamphlet or you go to their website, they will literally try to turn, on a scale of 0 to 10, something that has a miscellaneous value of 5 into a 7 or an 8. So they will make a simple pile of dirt come off as a pile of candy. You get what I'm saying? So you need to be wary of all of this because, again, a lot of people in the world are ignorant. And this, like I said, this is literally throughout the entirety of society. And I've come across this in my life, obviously. So it's not just knowledge, it's first-hand experience. It's not just wisdom I'm imparting on people, it's also first-hand experience. Real estate companies, also the same thing. A realtor will try to make a house come off through whatever means necessary or by whatever means necessary. Whether it's in the description, whether it is visual imagery, pictures, everything, mind you, everything. They try to make it come off as if it's something extraordinary, like something truly magnificent. For example, a simple 2-bedroom apartment is up for rent. The description is going to read spacious apartment for rent, despite the fact that the apartment is below average in terms of size. The only thing is that it's maybe slightly higher than usual. So the point between the floor or the ground and the ceiling, and they're going to say, if you call them out on their nonsense, they're going to say that that's what they meant, that the distance to the ceiling is higher than the average house, which may or may not be true. They know that no one is going to go through the process of actually checking that and getting back to them. It's simply not worth the trouble. Okay, it's very, very impractical. So and it just goes on, and that is automatically a spacious apartment. The neighborhood, for example, can be a crap neighborhood, but they're going to say diverse neighborhood, okay, or culturally diverse neighborhood. Yes, all of that is also manipulation. All of that is also gaslighting, albeit in a more general way, essentially stretched out throughout all, if not most, layers of society. That's exactly what I'm getting at. Imagine, for example, a tourist company from any third world country, and the country essentially offers 1 or 2 beautiful beaches, 1 or 2 forests where hunting can take place, and they're going to, how do you think they're going to advertise it? They're going to advertise it like it's some kind of tropical paradise, like it's the Bahamas, like it's Barbados, like it's any kind of vacation getaway location. Now, it's not a black and white issue. I'm not saying that these establishments are completely in the wrong for doing so. They're not completely in the wrong for doing so. Okay? After all, for a tourist company, their whole focus is to sell. They want to sell you something. But the line should be drawn at trying to mislead people. You simply paint a realistic picture, as in, this is what I offer, and that's it. I offer a pile of dirt. You're either interested in buying the pile of dirt or you're not. But imagine literally some third world country that has no, I'm not referring to my country of residence, mind you. This is just meant generally speaking. Imagine some third world country that is, you name it, that has only the basic things I mentioned. Beautiful 1 or 2 nice looking beaches, like on a scale of 0 to 10, a 6. And 2 or 3 forests where you can go hunting and fishing, and that's it. For the rest, the country offers nothing. Nothing other than what its basic profile or outline gives away, or what its basic profile outlines. It's a typical third world country. Quality of life is a 2 out of 10 at best, and it just goes on. Now, they're going to make it come off like it's some tropical paradise. Visit the beautiful country of blah, 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 blah. Okay. Beautiful, breathtaking beaches, beautiful, idyllic forests, and it just goes on. Now, even if some will outright, like I said, we've reached a point, honestly, to the point where where even if you were to want to call a company out on their nonsense, they're either not going to respond, or they're simply going to issue like a statement that essentially covers up what they said. They can just outright lie. Let's just say that I, for example, were to send an email to a company like that, or I were to, even worse, they're not going to respond most likely. Or they're going to simply respond with a generic statement. Or let's just say I go a couple of steps further, and I go to a news outlet, and I simply tell them this company is a bullcrap company. They do nothing but mislead people and whatnot. Look at this, and then look at what the place actually looks like. They try to make the place come off as if it's some kind of paradise, when in reality it's just plain. Honestly, it's just average at best. And the news outlet actually decides to cover it. The chance of you getting an interview from any company is gonna be zero. Okay, they're simply going to issue a statement. For example, if you reach out to them through correspondence, for example, any kind of news company or journalist reaches out to them by sending us some kind of email or anything in the way of correspondence, anything that through which they can be contacted, they're simply going to release a statement. For example, if the tour company is called Happy Tours, they're simply going to release a statement saying Happy Tours reserves the right to alter its descriptions as they see fit in alignment with their desires. Happy Tours only cares about fulfilling customers and seeing to it that they're satisfied to the fullest in terms of taking our tours and enjoying what this country has to offer. And yet, all the while, Happy Tours makes no promises in anything it says or does that guarantees that is indeed the case. And that's essentially it. You see what I mean? It's like clever wording, essentially. It's bluntly put, simply saying, hey, I didn't lie to you, but how you want to interpret it is up to you, essentially. Now, I'm not saying that a company is like the devil incarnate for doing so, because most of these companies, they simply, some of them do it because it's absolutely necessary, because unfortunately, you have customers that try to screw them over. So don't get me wrong, in some rare cases, it's warranted. But a good deal of companies out there, these guys literally just push it well past any acceptable metaphorical envelope. They openly just outright tell you that, hey, this is what the place looks like. And guess what? They edited it with Photoshop. They made it look literally 3 times better than it actually is. And if you actually go back to them with and simply say I want a refund because I'm not satisfied, this thing was not pleasant at all, then they're going to tell you something along the lines of check the fine print, or where it's going to say that all bookings are final and that there is no refund possible, blah 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 blah. Or they're going to issue a similar statement, or the exact same statement that I issued earlier as an example. Yeah, and that's essentially it. That's how things work. And my point is, a lot of places do that. It's not just people in one-on-one interactions or group interactions. A lot of companies, believe me, when you actually take a good look at society the way I explained, you're going to see that there is so much manipulation and gaslighting going on. And that it's almost like, bluntly put, everyone and everything is trying to screw each other over by ripping each other off, in a matter of speaking, that you're just gonna like scratch your head. A lot of shadiness. My point is, it is what it is, because legally, as well as through a broad context or within a broad context, when you look at it, depending on how you look at it, okay, Worst case scenario, all you can say is it is what it is. This is the way the market is configured, or this is the way the world is. Best case scenario is that you simply say that these guys are a bunch of thieving crooks. That still doesn't take away that what they do within the scope of society is legal and honestly, depending on the situation, at best questionable in terms of morality. So yeah. You simply need to adapt. Honestly, that's what I would recommend to any individual. For people, when you see someone do something the likes of which I described in an example, someone essentially behaves in a certain manner, as if and often there is often repetition. You need to simply have a good head on your shoulders. If you see someone simply act in a manner that they essentially want something from you, especially in the midst of a situational change. So you change your mind regarding something, and someone is either begging you for something, or they come up with alternate reasons in order for you to not change your mind in relation to whatever situation you change your mind about, then that's a red flag. Okay, that means that the person is trying to gaslight you or manipulate you. So again, another simple example: you have a friend. You ask that friend, hey, do you want to go? That friend asks you, do you want to go to the park tomorrow? You said yes, and then after like maybe tomorrow, okay, let's just say a couple of hours beforehand or prior to the actual so-called date or appointment, you tell the person, hey, you know what? Unfortunately, I'm gonna have to skip. I really hate to do this, but some kind of emergency came up, and it's legit. You're not making something up. An actual emergency came up. Something came up that enjoys higher priority. You'll just tell them we'll do it some other time. It's not like it's a big deal, I'm assuming, since it's just a park. If the person, for example, had their heart set on going to the park for whatever reason, the person is going to outright just tell you, for example, what? But you always cancel this, etc., etc. Why are you being such an asshole, etc.? And if you're stupid enough to fall for that, then you're going to think that you're the bad guy in that position, when that's not the case. I mean, if you regularly cancel, then it's a different matter altogether. But if it's something that rarely happens, then obviously you're not the one at fault there. And the person says, hey, I want to I was I really had my heart set on it. I was thinking about going to the park ever since like 2 months ago. I haven't gone in so long. I was going to walk my dog. He really needs to go out. He hasn't gone to the bathroom in a really long time, and I simply needed to bring him, and I won't have any other chance to do it. All of those things, that is gaslighting. Yes, that's specifically gaslighting, people. That's what gaslighting is by definition. You see what I mean? The person is literally trying to say and do whatever they can, and the person is going to essentially try to guilt trip you and essentially shove conditional situations that work out negative if your answer remains no into your face, in a matter of speaking, just for the sake of you changing your mind. The person is trying to mentally pressure you into changing your mind. That is gaslighting. Don't fall for that. Okay? If you really have something to do in that in given example, then the answer is a resolute no. End of story. And like I said, that's also a red flag. I would definitely recommend, at the very least, evaluating or reevaluating, if you've already done so, your relationship with this so-called friend. And worst case scenario, you simply dump him or her. You simply tell them, hey, listen, I don't want to be friends with you anymore. Piss off. End of story. But my point is, you see how common it is. But the thing is, it goes over a lot of people, their heads, because you have a lot of stuff to think about. You have a lot on your mind, a lot on your plate, blah, 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 blah. You can't keep track of every single thing, every single day. I understand, every single second, yeah. But when you really think about it, then you're going to be like, hey, wait a minute. It's that common, gaslighting and manipulation in society. Similar to overselling, overcharging people. Stuff like that is quite common. And if you don't pay attention to it, then yeah. But of course, the former is much worse than the latter, honestly. It's much worse from a general perspective. Um, and it just goes on. You know, like I said, companies do it. All of them do it. They try to literally mess with your amount. They try to just mess with your head. They mess with your mind in order for you to get, in order for them to get what they want from you. They'll tell you and say and do anything. Okay, and of course, this also applies to even, authority figures and whatnot. I'm not gonna say too much about that because I don't need to say anything about that. But you know what I mean. Within the scope of society, from the lowest point to the highest point, stuff like this takes place. Stuff like this takes place. And yeah, let me see if I had anything else. Anything else that I can say in the way of an example or anything like that. Um, like I said, nah, that's essentially it. You go to rent a place, and based on the ad, you expected something along the lines of an 8, and then you're confronted with a 5, and you're essentially left scratching your head, and you're like, okay. Um, and again, the concept of asking too many detailed questions about every little thing is way too tedious. So you're essentially being wedged into a corner where the metaphorical or proverbial argument is, yes, 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 I might have exaggerated a little, okay? I might have said that this pile of crap is in actuality a pile of diamonds. Who gives a rat's ass? You want it or not? That's what it boils down to. And in that case, I would simply recommend that you do what's best for you. Okay, that's set aside. The point of this video is simply to make people, anybody that isn't aware of it, be aware of this. Okay, that gaslighting and manipulation, or better said, manipulation and gaslighting, is quite common to the point where it goes over a lot of people's heads. And my point is, don't let it go over your head. You don't have to always think about it like it's your hand right in front of your face, but keep it in the back of your head metaphorically. Don't forget it, because if it gets too much out of hand in whatever way, shape, or form, then you need to act accordingly. Bye bye.